What's up, Chris? How's it going, Chris Hall? Us. Oh, very interesting, Danny. Can you tweet that at me? I would love to read your blog post on it. Um, so for those of you that don't know who I am, Brian Fanzo, iSocial Fans on the Twitters, digital strategist, technology evangelist, and someone that works. Hey, Sanji. I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks. Someone that works with brands on video strategy, influencer engagement, social media policies, as well as someone that is on the leaderboard over on Meerkat. Been using Meerkat since March 2nd. Hey, Cindy. And really, someone that I love this whole platform, Meerkat and Periscope. I don't think it's one versus the other. I think I'm a big fan of both of them. And so I've got since the fight last night, I've got numerous emails, tweets, and Facebook messages. Hey, Jester Cole, how's it going, man? About my thoughts on streaming the fight last night, which is really interesting. We'll do after this. I tried looking at implications of Periscope, etc. on pay-per-view. Yeah, so I think paid TV is an interesting one. So just to clarify for everybody, so I'm not, I'm for both of these platforms, Meerkat and Periscope. So I'm talking about live streaming as a whole is how I look at this, but really, Ustream has been around forever. I'm not sure if everybody remembers, but all of the Apple events were always blocked for streaming until Steve Jobs passed. And before that, what people were doing, and I actually worked with a couple people, is they had like helmet cameras or hat cameras, and they would send it to a redirect and post it up on Ustream. And you could watch through a pirated version of some guy's hat camera to actually watch the Steve Jobs presentation of the iPhone, of the iPad. And so that was kind of like, I remember those days of someone sneaking in behind the scenes to actually give us access to streaming. What's different in this case, and this is what I talk about when I say that these platforms are going to change the way people look at the rules, is that when you're doing such things as, I'd say, privacy, from the standpoint of the only way you can see it is if you're paying for it. And so I wrote a blog post about this being like Broadway shows. So if a Broadway show, which you can only see offline, there's no online streaming version of it, you can't pay for pay-per-view. I actually I wouldn't be surprised that these events, if they didn't start it acting like airplanes, when you go to an airplane, you can use the internet, but you can't stream. They actually block the port for streaming, such as Netflix, so that they actually prevent you from streaming. Now, if you're not using the Wi-Fi, of course, blocking it would be harder. So I wouldn't be surprised if events like Broadway, offline exclusive events. What's up, Brian Kramer? Cheers, my friend. Happy Sunday. Mr. Shareology. Check out Shareology book. My friend Brian Kramer, of course, the author of it, and he has an exclusive deal for Shareology right now. So check that out, shareologybook.com. But, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put actually cell phone blockers over top of a offline events such as Broadway shows, and then the only access you could have to the internet, of course, is the internet, and then they would actually block streaming for those. Do you think copyright laws will incorporate these platforms and make it illegal? No, I do not, because think about this. Thanks, Danny. I will check out that blog post. But here's my point on that. This is live streaming. It's not recording it and then reposting it for your own profit. So copyright laws are an interesting one there, but that's actually that's why the NHL blocking it originally was a stupid conversation, because they completely missed the point of why they were blocking it. But from the pay-per-view aspect, I actually streamed the entire fight last night on Meerkat when I was watching the entire Pacquiao Mayweather fight, but I didn't push it. I didn't let one person, not 1 minute of the live fight was seen on my stream. What I did was I put it facing the crowd, facing the people that I was watching it with, and so you could hear the commentary, you could hear everybody kind of banter back and forth, but never could you actually see the TV. And that's kind of my stance on what I did. I only did it on Meerkat. I didn't. My iPad was dead, or I would have done it on Meerkat and Periscope as well. But I only did it on Meerkat, and I had tons of trolls and haters that jumped inside of my feed, telling me to turn it around, calling me names, telling me that they were going to come find me in Arizona and grab my phone and turn it towards the TV. But my thought on that, and broadcast law, I'll give you my thought on that in a minute. But so my stance was, if you're not paying for it, I don't feel like I wanted to go around the system and let you get something for free that we were paying for at our live event that we were at. But at the same time, I thought there was an element of adding a bit of unique perspective. So I let people actually watch kind of the fans' reaction in the play-by-play in the room, but I wasn't giving anybody free access to something that I was paying for, because in my opinion, that's kind of the pay-per-view aspect. Now, I also worked with the Meerkat team. I got some conversations with the Meerkat team, and they sent messages out to people that were streaming during the event that they were going to actually take down any broadcasts that were fully looking at the boxing match the entire time. Now, I heard from multiple people that on Periscope, some people had 10,000, 11,000 viewers, and they streamed the fight for the whole time and didn't really get shut off to the end. And I think that's missing the mark, and I love this technology so much that I feel that these people aren't going to do that. I agree. Jim, it's not going to replace a real live event. No YouTube video will replace a live. Couldn't agree more, which is why I think live streaming at offline events like conferences has huge value, but it never will replace the hug or the handshake that I'm able to get afterwards, or the banter I'm going to have in the bar, in between sessions or after dinner. I think it's all about how you connect all of them. And for me, these apps aren't about replacing TV. They're about giving you unique experiences and unique points of views. So I think, honestly, yes, there you go, H to H, human to human, person touch. Brian Kramer's in the room, and we have H to H being dropped. All right, Brian, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers, Mr. Kramer. But also on that same note, I also feel like no one's going to watch a hockey game of a fan in the stands with a mobile camera shaking like this to watch a hockey game. That's just never going to happen. You're never going to see someone actually do that. Give me a break. That's just never going to replace TV. Now, the boxing match was interesting because you could point it at your TV and you're actually technically getting the TV's broadcast. But I don't think that's the value, and I think people that were doing that missed the kind of point. And I think you actually pollute and put this platform in a bad name if you're live streaming something like that and you're just kind of redirecting your phone so other people can take advantage of it. I mean, I've had NFL Sunday Ticket, which is the only reason I'm still a DirecTV customer. I've had NFL Sunday Ticket for years, 10 years. And if I wanted to, I could have set up a web camera, and pointed it towards my TV so that my brothers and family could watch the Steeler games with me. But that's violating, that's the entire point. So don't blame Meerkat or Periscope for pirating of live sporting events. That could have easily happened with a web camera and a Ustream. The fact that the main difference here is it's mobile to mobile. It's one click of a button. It's very idiot proof. So for me, I think this is kind of I think it's going to change the way we kind of document and the way that people do that. But it comes down to integrity, and it also comes down to I believe I love these apps, and I would hate for them to be blocked or be isolated because of people that just don't understand or get it. So to answer the other question that came down there, Periscope or Meerkat. So this is how I'm teaching brands and the two companies that I'm working with on how they treat the two of them differently. If someone has not used either platform, this is my recommendation. If you want to get on and just lurk and view and engage as a viewer, not streaming yet, just want to get on it and see what it's about, I recommend them getting on Meerkat, because the engagement on Meerkat is much higher, the comments stick around a lot longer, the community is really involved. If someone wants to build their audience and wants to jump on the stream, jump on Periscope, or jump on the live stream for the first time and want to build their audience for live streaming, I recommend them using Periscope, mainly because Periscope does allow you to follow your Twitter followers. Getting on there and jumping on there is very easier. What's your view on Costello's winner tweet, given Hollywood may be miffed? Well, that's actually very interesting as well. I think I have that. There's a blog post going out on that on my channel this week, so we will actually see how that goes. But so that's my point. And so I also think of it this way. For me, I've been asked a lot when I actually do Periscope versus when I do Meerkat. And here's how I kind of stand the two. If it's one where I'm going to point the rear camera at something and I'm going to be live streaming. I was live streaming a robotics conference when I was there this past Thursday. Periscope is the best for that. The UI is great. The replay for 24 hours, the cleaner HD. But if I'm going to sit here and answer Q&A back and forth, I like Meerkat, because Meerkat allows me to scroll the comments. The comments get pushed to Twitter so that I can actually build an audience. Remember, one of these big things for me is and every single person who comments on my Meerkat stream, I put them into a Twitter list, and then I build information and use that data to actually understand that user community better. That possibility does not exist in Meerkat and Periscope today. I cannot get an entire download of every user that I have for that it's engaged me on every single one of my live videos. I will say I've been using Periscope for things like this because I'm not doing anything else. I'm not writing a blog. I'm not doing a Twitter chat. I'm not doing a Hangout. I'm not broadcasting my podcast, which I normally do. My podcast. Usually I give behind the scenes access to my podcast. So with that, the reason that I say this is good is because I can pay attention to these comments and they won't disappear in 3 seconds while I'm looking over at the screen, setting up GarageBand and so on. So which makes no sense. A Twitter app that can't tweet. I agree. And Jim, the reason is because Twitter hasn't been able to get their hands into Periscope yet. Periscope really still was acting when the app was released. It was still in the same I'd say the same development phase as it was before it got purchased. From what I've been told, I did some research through my Twitter contacts, and my Twitter contacts are the ones that told me that they actually released that with really it was still in Periscope form. That's why it was able to take advantage of the social graph, but it actually wasn't able to take advantage of a lot of the Twitter features because it really hadn't been put into the Twitter ecosystem long enough yet. But I have a full confidence that the half-point release 1.5, when 1.5 comes out, that it'll be much more Twitter integrated. Hopefully more like Twitter video, in my opinion. That I can't wait for that to actually happen. The quality of content on Meerkat seems more engaging and better. I would agree, it does seem more engaging. I wouldn't say it's always better. The thing on Periscope is there's a lot of people just trying it and getting on there, and if I look at my most recents on Periscope, I mean, it is a ton of random stuff. Where on Meerkat, I do kind of feel like the people that are on there have kind of started making a name for themselves, a habit. I will say that Meerkat's been out for an entire month longer, so a month from now, I expect Periscope to have that a little bit more well ironed out as well. I've done 227 or 200. I had it down here. 230. I've done 232 Meerkats. And I haven't hit my 100th Periscope yet. So for me, I'm still way heavier on Meerkat, which I think is part of that. Hey, Brian, how are you? So just keep that in mind, I think, when we're talking about between the two. But back to the whole point of the streaming. I mean, this isn't going to replace live events, but it is going to make the whole pay-per-view. And really, let's be real. That was the end of boxing as we know it, in my opinion. The UFC cares about community. They engage. And when you pay for an event, you actually get an entire event, not just a boxing match main event where the undercards were crap. UFC is legit. The UFC gives you pre-fights, post-fights. They let you build up engagement. It happens every month. You don't have to wait 6 years for a hug-out fest like it was last night. So, I mean, boxing won't be the same for my kids as it was for me growing up. I remember Sweet Pea Whitaker fights and Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson, of course, and I remember when Holyfield got knocked out. I remember where I was sitting at, which couch I was watching it with my dad. But I think boxing they just missed the boat. They forgot what it meant to engage the fans and build that community around it. UFC has a crazy loyal fan base that's doing some great things. So back on the point here was I saw those who paid $100 for 12 rounds of hugging. I was one of them that paid, but you know what? It was worth it for me because it was the experience around the experience, and I didn't want to miss that. I'm never one that pays for something and then is disappointed at the product because I paid for it knowing on why I'm paying for it. For me, of the experience. I actually thought it was. I was rooting for Mayweather. Mainly because I thought his trash talking, he could back it up. And he here's what you have to think of it as. He's like the San Antonio Spurs of the NBA. They do things so boring and they do things so methodical and they play defense better than anybody. But when it comes down to it, it works. I think these platforms will come to age if it's a major incident. Great for newscasters. I agree. Very great. I've actually worked now with 3 different newscasters on how they're using it, giving you behind-the-scenes access. SportsCenter is my favorite. SportsCenter on Periscope. The fact that Flores has the Periscope up there in between commercials. I actually found myself waiting for the commercial, excited for a commercial on SportsCenter so that I could get the inside scoop from Flores on Periscope. That's mind-blowing. That is how I thought of it. I also loved how the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm a Penguins fan, of course. Yes, but so boring. What's so boring, Jenny? Oh, the fight was. Yeah, probably. Yes, it was. It was definitely boring. I agree. But I also loved how the Pittsburgh Penguins gave the camera to someone in the locker room, and they went around and just doing like personal interviews with the different fighters. You also got to see Sidney Crosby being interviewed right after he came off the ice. My philosophy and how I work with the brands that I'm working with is think like a fan. What would the fans love to see that they don't have access to? What kind of unique perspective could they get? So really, that's kind of the Spurs are really boring. That is for sure. I was glad to see that they lost and they were knocked out because I did not want to see them anymore. But yeah, that's my philosophy. So I think we have to kind of put this in perspective, and don't blame Meerkat or Periscope for people pirating a live event like. Oh, thanks. Is that Michael or Michelle? Yeah, this is just social selling. Think like you're a prospect. Exactly. I know you get that, Bryn. It is. Think like you're a prospect. Think like you're a community member. Think like you're a customer. I mean, shoot, I tell that with everybody who's a product person. Think like you're a customer for sure. Some Premier League games here in England have started doing some great reportage. Oh, that's awesome to hear, Danny. I'm not surprised. The UK seems to be jumping on it as well. Really, really unique feeds. Australia has too. I watched an Australia broadcaster on Meerkat a couple times, and she rocked. She gave like people what she was thinking before the show, and then right after the show, she did like a recap one. It was kind of funny hearing her insights on it. But it's just like Game of Thrones. People are you could point. You could do a redirect to a server and have it on a private FTP server for all of your friends to watch Game of Thrones, so you don't have to buy HBO. So I wouldn't blame these apps. I just think it's a coming of age on what live streaming is, and I mean, there's also an element of what you're paying for, but. For me, it comes down to an integrity. It also comes down to my big picture, is I believe that this kind of platform for engagement is amazing, and I didn't want to ruin that last night during the fight, for me at least. So if my fans, unfortunately, just got to stare at me and hear my commentary and hear the people that I was watching the fight with, they didn't get a view of the camera, but I got lots of feedback afterwards that they enjoyed that, and there was a little over 2,500 people on my stream during that fight. So truly can't really blame too much. Periscope crackdown on Game of Thrones. Yeah, what was the difference with last night? Last night they had a whole lot more users that were actually streaming the fight. If you jumped on Periscope and looked in the global section for the fight, the amount of people that were streaming during that fight were way higher than Game of Thrones. And think about it this way, the value is different as well. I mean, HBO Game of Thrones, HBO only cost what, $12 or $15 a month, and that's, so if you broke that down per episode, you're at less than, probably you're at $3 or $4 per oh great, have a good one at Avengers, Bryn, cheers. But if you're thinking about like $4 for it's going to ruin it for everyone. I agree, but that's why we can't do that. But if it's $4 per episode with Game of Thrones, yes, they did a good job of policing that, but it was a much bigger policing job. And remember, it's just like YouTube. If anybody has put up pirated stuff on YouTube before, or if you put YouTube video up there that had real music in it, YouTube has an algorithm in it that actually allows them to flag everything that they would be considered that would violate a policy. And I think eventually that's how these platforms are going to get as well, especially for big events like future fights and pay-per-view. So that's kind of my take on that. I've been getting tons of tweets and emails on that on this Sunday. So I was in the pool with my daughters this afternoon, and they're now taking a nap. So I figured I would jump on here real quick and give my insights on that. And I say don't blame the platforms. And I also say stop streaming stuff that you're paying for. It's not the point of these platforms and apps. And live streaming apps, that's not the reason these are great. These are great for the conversation, the collaboration with the commenters, and the mobile aspect. If you're just sitting it and putting it at a TV screen, you're not providing any value, in my opinion, overall. So what's up, Martin Jones? I'm sure you enjoyed the fight. You got to see the fight live. I'm so jealous. Martin Jones posted some awesome pictures of himself with Manny Pacquiao and his daughter. That was really cool. But yeah, so Martin, I was just ranting about the fact that I've had tons and crazy people picking me from different news outlets, as well as different people asking my opinion on people that were live streaming the actual fight via their app, pointing it at the TV and allowing people that didn't pay $100 to actually watch the fight. I live streamed it, but I didn't show any of the actual fight itself. I had it pointing at the fans, and they got to hear the commentary from us and watch us celebrating and acting like fools whenever there was big punches and stuff. But that was my stance on it. I didn't feel like I need to violate that. And if someone really wanted to do that at $100 a pop, They could just buy it. So that's kind of my point of view. No, I'm not on Meerkat right now as well. I will be on Meerkat later on tonight. I have two Meerkat sessions actually scheduled later on tonight. No, for me, that's actually a good question, Sanjay. So for me, if I'm gonna actually do questions and answers with Periscope, I don't do Meerkat at the same time because I want to be able to read people's comments. And thanks for the hearts. I want to actually read their comments. The comments disappear too fast on Periscope for me to multitask. So usually, if I have both of them up, it's when I'm doing a podcast or when I'm doing a Google Plus Hangout where I don't plan on being able to read the comments until later on or after the show. So that's why I did Periscope only for this one. So that's just my insight. That's why how I'm recommending people use Meerkat versus Periscope. Interesting mail soon. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised about that either, Martin. Periscope and Meerkat eventually going to replace the vlog. So Meerkat is better for engagement. Yes, active conversation and engagement, especially because it gets pushed to Twitter, so that I can actually have another device looking at Twitter that will allow me to see what everybody's commenting on. For active engagement, I'm a much bigger fan of Meerkat for that right now until Periscope updates and adds the same features. But that's kind of my point of view. But yeah, Martin, it'll be interesting when people are getting letters in the mail saying they violated the copyright policies that they paid for their $100 app. Yeah, not every comment, Sanjay. You can actually choose on Meerkat if you want your comments to go there, but by default, your comments are automatically pushed to Twitter, but they're pushed to Twitter with a direct at mention, so it's the first at mention, so not everybody sees the comments, only it comes under a conversation on Twitter. So I love the way they do it. It's one of my favorite aspects of Meerkat. Because it allows me to build a Twitter list and understand who's watching it and engage with those people later on as well as understand and leverage that social data a little bit outside the app. Periscope is definitely acting a little bit like Apple from the sense of they're keeping all of the comments and keeping all of the data. Even when you guys, if you scroll to the left or the right and you say share broadcast, it only shares it with a mobile notification for your fellow followers in the app. It doesn't post that to Twitter. So that to me, so it's not broadcast. No, broadcast don't ever get full in Meerkat. I had over 2,000, I had 2,500 people in my Meerkat yesterday during the fight. When I was engaging with people, and you could still every person could still comment. There was no lag or people having problems commenting, or like in here, if you don't get on Robert Flores's in between Sports Center in time, it actually blocks you from commenting. That does suck. I know Periscope's fixing that because I guarantee that they're putting bigger they're switching to a different cloud service on the backside so that they can better support the commenting at a higher bandwidth, because that is a ridiculous limitation in my opinion, for sure. But yeah, that's all I have for right now. As always, you guys can watch the recap on this, and I will be back with more events later on, but I had to truly answer all the questions. It goes into a special stream. Yeah, it goes into the conversation element of the original post. So when you kick off your Meerkat, it posts a tweet, and then underneath that tweet, if you open the conversations underneath it, you can see every single person's comment on that original stream. All right, Martin Jones, take it easy. Hopefully you got back safe from Las Vegas, the awesome fight last night. But cheers all, make it a great one.